Today on Aging Untold, the first 72 hours. It's the most critical time after leaving the hospital.
So I tell people all the time, the hospital's just saved your life. The next 72 hours gets to determine if you're going to keep it.
We'll show you how to protect loved ones and yourself during recovery. Plus, virtual reality is opening up incredible new worlds for older adults.
They've used virtual reality to help with pain relief, mental health issues, balance issues.
Learn about the promise and pitfalls of this cutting-edge technology. And later, the sweet rewards of following your passion.
Super broad question. Why do you do this?
Because I love it.
A Vermont man finds inspiration buzzing inside a hive. Experts with advice and solutions. You're watching Aging Untold with Aging Well Coach Catherine Ambrose, gerontologist Sam Craddock, aging expert Amy O'Rourke, and board-certified physician Dr. Ray Rogers. We're all getting older. It's about time we talked about it.
Welcome to Aging Untold. When you leave the hospital, experts say the first 72 hours are important for healthy recovery. From medication errors to falls, this period can be the patient's most fragile. Dr. Ray, tell us what families need to focus on during these critical first few days to ensure a safe transition home.
Well, they really need to pay attention, and they need to be active participants in their care. And that care doesn't end just because they're being discharged. You know, they're happy, the loved one is recovering very well and all that. Basically, when you're being discharged from the hospital, it's because you're meeting all the functions that are necessary that you can do now at home. And when you can do that in the hospital, it really is time to go home, because all you can do in the hospital is get infected. So it's really important that you understand why you were in the hospital, how you were treated, what changes were made, medications, what activities you need to be restricted from. You need to actually go through this discharge paper with someone detailed, so you have a great understanding of what it is that's going on, because these first 72 hours, they're going to determine whether you continue to heal at home or if you get readmitted. And that's why it's such a crucial period.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you know that the home is ready, that someone can help you at home, maybe a buddy that also gets to hear the discharge instructions.
So that you know if you have those things at home available, what they're telling you to have. So if you don't have that capability at home, somebody needs to say something.
Yeah. So I tell people all the time, the hospital's just saved your life. The next 72 hours gets to determine if you're going to keep it, especially with our older community, because the medication changes that go on inside a hospital are oftentimes crazy. And then you go home and you've already got your preloaded med cassette and it's all set up, but you don't know what's been discharged from your meds and what's been added to them. So you're taking those, and then you're taking what the hospital has sent you home with. Blood pressure meds are oftentimes doubled during that time, which is a huge fall issue. The follow-up plan, if you don't already have an appointment for a primary care, for a follow-up visit when you discharge from the hospital, you're not getting in for another month. And that's too long. So you got to watch for that. Then you've also got that transfer back into the home. So you got delirium and confusion that can go on there, the infection issues that you talked about, and then your family. They have been going back and forth to the hospital, sitting, visiting, waiting, and now they're trying to take on that caregiver load, so they're in overload as well. And one of the biggest ones I see is they'll discharge you home and they'll say, okay, you need a walker and you need oxygen, and the home health company is going to come and they're going to be on board for physical therapy or whatever, but none of that gets delivered and it doesn't get signed on.
The trend that I've noticed over the years is people are sicker and sicker when they're discharged. It's kind of like the plane seats get smaller and smaller. It's like they're sicker and sicker when they're discharged. So what I like to tell people is when your person's admitted, find out what that hospital's discharge process is. And every hospital has a different way of discharging. They might have a discharge planner, it might be a nurse on the floor, and get a clear physical copy and a digital copy of all the orders that the doctor's written: physical therapy, occupational therapy, durable medical equipment. stop or slow down the discharge so that you can get your ducks in a row.
Exactly.
And make sure that they have what they need. And don't be afraid to say, I'm not ready.
It's not
if
a
it's
safe
Friday
discharge.
night at 5 o'clock and you're not ready, you're not ready. But make sure that you understand everything that the doctor's ordered. You have copies, and wherever you are and whoever you're talking to, you can show them, this is what I need.
Yeah.
Especially on Fridays, people are playing beat the clock because a lot of discharges happen on Friday, and so there's a lot of scrambling to make sure that we're prepared for the patient to come back home or go into rehab in between, and which rehab, and it really causes panic. And this is really dangerous for the allies and the adult kids as well, because we've experienced adult kids having a stroke or heart attack because they're so worried about their mother or father being discharged.
I'll take a 5 o'clock Friday discharge compared to what I've seen. I've seen 2 o'clock in the morning discharges, folks.
My.
I have seen 85-year-olds getting released after midnight.
It's a lot of moving parts going
Yes.
on. So I would tell you as the viewer, make sure, pay attention to 72 hours, pay attention that your person can continue healing and not be readmitted, but also be really active participant. Make sure you have a discharge planning sheet. Make sure I've had people, they didn't give it to them. They don't know why they were there. They don't know the follow-up. Make sure that you're actively engaged and you have an understanding, and make them accountable.
I think the thing to remember too is the importance of an advocate to help. I would never have somebody in a hospital alone if you can avoid it. And I think the thing to remember is you also have the older adults saying, I want to get out of here, I want to get out of here, I want to get out of here.
Right.
And then I don't want to go here and I don't want to go there, and they're kind of, over it. And so you have to be mindful of where they are and kind of work with them to have a successful discharge, because you might have all these things that you want to have happen and they're not really into it. And the other thing is, hospitals get penalized if somebody returns within 30 days.
Oh, they do.
So we're all invested in a successful discharge.
Yeah. The discharge isn't the finish line, it's just a handoff.
Coming up, from chewing the furniture to eating something dangerous,
I'm excited to know that I shouldn't panic anytime something happens with my pet.
we'll take you to a class teaching pet owners the critical first aid skills that could help in an emergency. But first, imagine traveling the world, revisiting cherished memories, or even learning new skills, all without leaving your living room.
The thought of being able to go to museums or visit all these other different places and never leave my home, that's a good thing. That's interaction.
We'll show you how virtual reality is transforming the lives of isolated seniors.
Virtual reality is opening new worlds for seniors, allowing them to explore, travel, and reconnect from home. In a 2023 study of adults over 65, nearly 80% saw improved emotional well-being after trying VR headsets, and 60% say they felt less isolated after short sessions. Amy, how is virtual reality being used today to help reduce isolation and boost engagement among older adults?
So the interesting thing is the Offices on Aging, particularly in New York, started a program. They distributed over 800 AI companion programs, and they found that 95% of those that were using it had better, less isolation, they were less lonely, and they felt connected. There is a little bit of a creep factor, like, oh, it's not a real person, but it's really been effective once they get used to it. The other organization that I think has done an outstanding job is the VA. They've used virtual reality to help with pain relief, mental health issues, balance issues, and really looking at decreasing the sense of isolation that older adults experience.
These VR systems are really opening up a whole new world. Now, they don't come without issues and worries, and so we have to realize that for some, there can be that vertigo and that dizziness. So, if you're going to do this, you want to start slow. You don't want to just throw on a headset because your grandkids decided to put you in a game system and take off, because you could get dizzy and it could lead to falls. With someone with dementia, we've got to be concerned about the added confusion of it. But there are some real benefits to being able to go on a trip and never leave your house.
Yeah, I think it's all about balance. So, some people, they can get so overwhelmed and overstimulated, so that's not going to be a good thing. Now they're going to be more agitated.
Sure.
However, the thought of being able to go to museums or visit all these other different places and never leave my home, that's a good thing. That's interaction.
Yeah.
But you also want them to have some direct interaction. It's never going to replace it. I think everything can an enhancement. And then with physical therapy and all that, they're using a lot of that for balance and support and mobility. So I think it plays a role. It's just you have to have that fine balance.
These could be really fun to create some laughter, some engagement with family, be conversation starters with families or caregiver.
Right.
And
Going down memory lane, visiting the beach that you honeymooned on, or a town from years ago. And so this is all about having some emotional reconnection, memory stimulation, conversation catalyst, and also be used for practical testing, where you can get a baseline of where we're at cognitively now, and then what kind of improvements.
So you can get the headsets for home, and you can go to a VR, to a studio, and participate. So it's out there, and don't get worried about the technology.
I would just
Find
say,
your grandkid and say, hey, come on over here and set this up for me, and let's play a game together, and maybe interact with them.
I saw one clip where a woman had this secret in her head, and she had no one to share it with. She was too afraid. And she was talking to her AI companion, and she started talking and got that out. And it was a catalyst for her to start talking to her children.
Wonderful.
Really powerful. Really
It's
powerful.
great technology, and I think, if they check with the Department of Aging in their area to see what's available for them, that would be great.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things too that you can find online. There's a lot of emerging technology that's being created. So AI, VR, check it out. We'll be back with more on Aging Untold.
Still to come, to be or not to be. For a man living in Vermont, there is no question. But first, preparing for the unexpected.
I love giving the tools and the skills to people to do a little bit more.
We'll explore some of the most common pet emergencies and where you can turn to find solutions. You can follow Aging Untold on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok now.
If you own a pet, you know that companionship can come with unwelcome surprises. Despite our best efforts to keep them safe, accidents can still happen. But basic first aid could help save your pet's life. Io Elise is in Portland and introduces us to a veterinarian providing pet owners with solutions to be prepared during an emergency.
This is Scooby. Scooby is one of our assisted therapy canine. I really love when people take this class and seeing their reactions during the class of, I'm just really excited to learn more. I'm excited to know that I shouldn't panic anytime something happens with my pet. So we're going to start at the toes, and we're going to overlap by about 50%.
Dr. Sarah Tauber is a veterinarian with Dove Lewis who, in addition to her hospital duties, teaches a pet first aid class. The class goes over a variety of topics like when to take your pet to the vet, how to bandage them up if needed, and what you should do in the most common pet emergencies.
I'd say the most common thing that we see are the GI cases, the vomiting and the diarrhea. One of the first things that I recommend is to do just a short little fasting. So no food, no water for a short period of time. Now, this is a general recommendation for most healthy animals.
If that fasting doesn't work well for your generally healthy pet, it may be time to see the vet. Here's another common case.
Toxins and abnormal ingestions, and that might be foreign bodies, like my dog ate a sock or my dog ate a toy. The best recommendation is just get to either your clinic or an emergency clinic as fast as possible.
You are much more tolerant than most of the pets out there, huh? Yes.
You may have heard of giving your pet hydrogen peroxide if they ate something they shouldn't have, but Dr. Tauber says that's a bad idea. It can cause even more problems in the long run. Depending on the item, calling the ASPCA poison control line can be a great way to get help. While intervention is important, there is something you should keep in mind.
Especially in the local Portland area, it's a small amount of cases that owners could have intervened and made a giant difference before getting into the hospital setting. However, when we're looking at animals that are in the field training, working dogs or search and rescue dogs, or if you're out on a hiking trail 5 miles down and now you have to hike out, it's in those scenarios that it's extra important for you to have some of that first aid training.
It's called pre-hospital care, and Dr. Tauber says it should always be followed up with an appointment.
I also love teaching. I love giving the tools and the skills to people to do a little bit more, know a little bit more, so then we can work together to make their pet feel better.
I love this story because I am a dog lover. I love all animals, but I love this because as doggy parents or cat parents, there's a lot we could do if we just knew. Just like when we talk about healthcare for older adults, it's just knowing something that you didn't know that could make a difference. I think a lot of times pet parents wait too long when, say, a dog or a cat, their poop doesn't look good or they're throwing up. They really should not.
Pets can't talk.
Right.
They can't talk, so you have to probably recognize some warning signs. And there's certain things that, because they're loved too, right? They're loved too.
Their
so
family.
recognize if they have labored breathing, that persistent diarrhea or vomiting, or they seem like they're in excruciating pain, or you see a lot of bleeding. That's probably some pretty good warning signs.
First thing I'm going to do is take a first aid class. I love that. I just thought that was so practical and so good. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but my family member's dog's like a human pogo stick, and he jumped up on the table after a dinner party, but everybody was still there, and ate all the butter. Oh my God. But the family knew exactly what to do, which I was marveling at. They knew exactly what to do, and I wouldn't have. So this is kind of like a motivator for me to go ahead and take a pet first aid class, just so I'm better armed. Yeah.
I wish there were.
I have to admit, I have a first aid kit for my dogs in my motorhome because they travel with us. And they're just as important as any other family member. And so I keep a first aid kit because not everything that you use for yourself can you use on an animal, and knowing how to do it. And, you know, you can take a first aid class, but there's also a lot of really good first aid classes online that you can take for animals.
After the break, even a beautiful relationship can cause a little pain.
I'm wearing the netting because I did get stung. You're calm.
Yeah. It happens.
We show you what inspires a Vermont man to pursue the sweeter side of life, despite the sting. Go to aginguntold.com or subscribe to the Aging Untold YouTube channel for more.
A Vermont man's 50-year passion for beekeeping has drawn enthusiasts from around the country. And as reporter Joe Carroll found out, despite a few stings, the rewards are definitely sweet.
We might as well go. It's 8:30.
For Mike Palmer, the buzz in town is 6 miles away. He's leading a caravan of volunteers to a place in St. Alma's Town that's like his second home. It's an apiary, a place where beehives are kept.
It's really wonderful, you know.
The smoke calms the bees, which Mike says is rarely needed.
They're really not aggressive.
Volunteers are fellow beekeepers from all over the country.
Okay, we got it.
Like Steve Hafner from Pennsylvania. It's his 3rd year coming to the Green Mountains.
Mike is just the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time.
Today, they're catching the queen bees in the hives.
I'm mostly concerned about the queens getting overheated in the sun.
It's 90 degrees and humid.
It's quite a process.
Super broad question. Why do you do this?
Because I love it.
Mike grabs the queen bee.
So this is the first queen to come off. Sometimes they're a little elusive.
He'll mark the queen with a tiny drop of blue paint. That's this year's color for tracing the dominant bee.
Not only do I track what year they were mated, I track which breeder queen they came from.
Joining the queen in the small box are her worker bees. They'll feed her and clean her for the duration that they're in the container. Mike will either keep the queen or sell her.
Why no protective gear?
Unnecessary. You can see how ferocious they are.
Steve might differ.
Ugh. How about giving them a little smoke? I'm still getting stung. Hurts every time.
And a bee got my attention in my ear.
I'm wearing the netting because I did get stung. You're calm.
Yeah, it happens.
I think I'm going to bring the hat down.
Yeah.
Are you still learning?
Always.
All morning, the master and his bee buddies move from hive to hive, looking for this sometimes elusive queen. Mike's been a beekeeper for 50 years. Life's been pretty sweet for the 76-year-old.
And one of the reasons for them is I want to share that with people. I want them to have to know the success that I had, you know.
We done? Are we done?
In a few days, Steve and the others will go back home, but Mike will carry on.
I'll be learning until the day I'm gone.
Thank you for saving the bees. Bees are so important, and what a wonderful hobby.
You know, I felt like Jungle Book, you know, when he's got the tiger by the tail and he says there's teeth on the other end, and he was grabbing the bees by their butt. You know, I'm like, that's not the place to go.
Well, I like the fact that he has his passion and he wants to teach others.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of people probably don't know a lot about bees or they have fears of it, and just think how he can teach them, you know, show his passion, show purpose, and just keep learning and help others to learn so that somebody else can take it over.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really about the honey. I was waiting for the honey to come up, and I love honey.
Yeah.
It wasn't really about that. It was about his love for what he was doing and the people that go up there over and over and over, and he'll be doing it till the day he dies.
We're all aging, and it's about time we talked about it. Until next time on Aging Untold.
On the next Aging Untold, hip fractures and replacement options.
I have seen people that will literally bedbound themselves. They could rehab, they could walk, but they're so afraid of going through it again, they don't even try.
We uncover the surprising truth about these injuries and provide concrete steps you can take for treatment and prevention.